I grew up like a savage.
So, like, now, if now when you got to the West, and I know you said when you heard like Quick, Sweet Black Pussy, and you heard AMG and Second and None, it was like, whoa, what, this is some other shit. Like, so how was that? Because I think they kind of like in the same sphere as your brother, as far as being kind of like those unsung heroes.
But you know what? When I got out to the West, I'm coming from New York City, and I knew the culture out there. But I came out West when it was really gang banging out there. You feel what I'm saying? When shit was really popping off out there, and I didn't know the different lay of the land with the music. I went to Vallejo, and I was like, oh shit! I remember we did a show at Club Monopolies. You feel what I'm saying? And it was a different type of sound out there. When I went out to Tacoma, Washington, and hearing Kid Sensation and Sir Mix-a-Lot, you know what I'm saying? I was like, there's a different type of vibe out there. You feel what I'm saying? I never knew that. I remember doing a show in Seattle, Washington with Too Short and Quick. And Quick being a blood, there was a bunch of Crips in the audience. And we came off the stage doing Treat Them Like They Want to Be Treated and I'll Do For You. Then Quick comes on stage doing Sweet Black Pussy, and somebody threw up the C sign and he kicked them in the face, and they had to rush us out the back. You know what I'm saying? And Quick was like, fuck your mother. It was just crazy to me because we were seeing a different part of the country that we didn't experience out east.
Now, you the first East Coast guy I actually am asking about this, right? And this guy is not from your section, but since we own that, and since we own gang banging in the West, which we don't particularly do in the Bay, but Tim Dog, how was that? Because Tim Dog was on.
I didn't like that. I didn't like that record. I thought he was fucking horrible, even coming out with some shit like that. Because to me, you causing tension for no motherfucking reason, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like me, I fuck with niggas from the Bay. I fuck with niggas from Chicago. You know what I'm saying? I don't like tension. You know what I'm saying? We need to unify. There's so much tribalism amongst us right now, which I didn't like that record at all.
And what's so crazy is like as Black people, we usually do that. Like we usually rush to judge, right? And then oddly enough, years later, New York is one of the gangbang capitals. You know what I'm saying? Like so many gangs in New York, Crips, Bloods, all that shit. And he was dissing whole gang.
But to see the thing about it, and this is just my opinion, is that in New York it was a fad, and out west it was a lifestyle. You feel what I'm saying? That's the way I looked at it. You feel what I'm saying? Now, later on in life it became crazy where it became so real in New York, Bloods and Crips, and me being out in LA and people educating, and me meeting cats like Monster Cody and Tracy, who's locked up right now because he used to be with Ice-T. And they educating me of gang banging, how Cripping started and Blood started, you know what I'm saying? And then coming back to New York and seeing how it is out here, I was like, man, y'all dudes is idiots, man.
Yeah.
And then it became, and then later on, as I got older, it became serious. Out here it became like a cancer. My cousin got killed, behind that. He was, he got killed. He was in Jersey, running around with Grape Street Crips out there. You know what I'm saying? So I just tried to disseminate myself from all of that stuff, man, because I was always about getting money. I was a hustler, but I wasn't about taking the next man's life, for color or anything like that. That to me, because when violence comes, money stops. That's what I was always told.
So would you say your brother, not even knowingly, threw you an alley-oop to get out the streets by starting his music career?
Well, he did, but then he fired me. But he fired me like later on in life because it's like a mother bird pushing a bird out the nest to say, now it's time for you to fly, because you can't depend on me for the rest of my life. I'm not going to have a record deal for the rest of my life. take all your relationships and everything that you nurtured when you were on the road and go start your own. See, I was the type of person that I didn't look at somebody that opened up for me or my brother like they wasn't shit. I became cool with Lighter Shade of Brown. I became cool with Boys to Men. And this is before they were Boys to Men. And Lighter Shade of Brown, everybody had talent to me, and I kept those relationships. Even to this day with my boys from Digital Underground, Cletus Mack, Money B, you know what I'm saying? These are all because I never thought that I was better than anybody else. We were just unified.
That's super dope, man. And like, so being in LA or being around, did the acting bug kick in? Because you got roles in like Juice and Poetic Justice early, right?
Yeah, I got that on the strength of Pac, and I've always wanted to act. I've done that since I was young. My mom's had put me in summer stock and all types of programs, but I got 1,000 no's before I got one yes, because sometimes these casting directors feel like they're the gatekeeper of your career, and if it's something that they don't like, you might meet a casting director, you go in for a role, and she might be upset, and she's like, no, I don't think he's not the right person for it. So no one ever gave me an opportunity, you know. So I started off real small. I started doing extra work. I started learning about what production was. And I got the bug. I mean, I've always loved movies, man. Movies kept me out of trouble. Like being at home in Far Rockaway, I used to lock myself in a dark room and watch movies. You know, while everybody's outside shooting and hustling and doing all kinds of other stuff, I was just watching movies. That was my escape.
That's dope. I read that about you too, and so you because you was ambitious, and you know, like when I see people, when I go back and I see rappers, like, you know, they always, the video of Meek Mill pops up, right? Of him with the braids and him now, and the elevation and the evolution, right? And so I was going back and looking at some of your work, right? And I looked at the film A Good Day.
Yeah.
And that was pretty deep though, right? Because I go to the San Francisco Film Festival, Oakland International Film Festival, San Francisco Black Film Festival every year. I got friends that's on the board. And I look at these type of things, right? And it reminds me of one of those films, but it was really good. I liked it, right?
Yeah.
And then you gotta always look at shit with the time.
Yeah, we got an award for that too.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's I can see how. That was dope.
Yeah.
And you did this film at a time, what was that, 06, 07 maybe?
Yeah, 07.
That's around the time that all of those people in your hometown was getting indicted, right?
Yeah.
Like Dead Eye.
Yeah.
I know a little something, Markuann. I fuck with a little.
Dead Eye is one of my homies. He's a real, that's a real stand-up dude, man. You know what I'm saying? Real talented. Always been cool with me, man. I fucks with Dead Eye. Dead Eye is that's my guy, for real.
And on a good day, in that film, was Choke No Joke involved in that film?
No, Choke is from the Bronx.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he wasn't involved. Rob Young was. Rob, you probably know. I mean, I'm not Rob Young. Rob Morgan was. You probably seen him in Mudbound and a bunch of other projects.
Mudbound, yeah.
Yeah. He played the soldier. That was the recruiter.
And what was your role in because I watched that movie recently, Cold Blue.
Oh, I had a small character. I played Born. That was the project that Choke No Joke directed. And I give props to Choke No Joke. Choke is somebody that people don't understand, man, but he's a real good dude, man. When I say he's the type of person that it ain't no middle ground with that man. You know what I'm saying? What's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. You know, Choke gave me my first opportunity to be able to be in a project that he put out there, man. So big shout out to my man Choke No Joke.
Yeah, I could tell that he he wears heart on his sleeve and he passionate.
Oh, he does. And you know what? He's a giant, man. Somebody like him you would want to go to war with, because he don't care if he's going against society. He doesn't give a fuck if it's a Puffy, a Jay-Z, a Muhammad Ali, whoever. If that's the way he feels, that's the way he feels. That's why I support him in all his endeavors. You know what I'm saying? Big shout out to my man Choke No Joke.
Shout out to Choke No Joke, man. And So, well, before we get to Godfather of Harlem, what is your relationship with Onika Day?
Oh, that's the homie, man. That's like my big sis, man. I've known her for sheesh, man, over 15 years, man. You know what I'm saying? She came out here from the Bay. You know, we have similar ties with different people, man. She used to run with Pop and Suge. You feel what I'm saying? She has a real good heart, real creative, man. And she's actually my neighbor. So anytime that, you know, we need to hang out and just kick it, you know what I'm saying? She tells me her stories about being in the Bay, you know, and she's like Sway's sister. She's a real good person, real genuine person.
Yeah. Shout out to Sway. Shout out to Cuz, man. That's family, man. Me and Clee, he gonna be real happy to see Clee participating in this interview too, man. I told him that we was gonna be doing this interview. And so is she the one that put you up on Lil D?
Yeah, actually what happened was I read about Little D, and I was trying to actually reach out to him, and Onika said that she knew some people that knew him, and that her cousin Chucky had actually grew up with him. So I forget how the story happens, but when D came to DC with his wife, I went down to DC. We met, we chopped it up, and from there on, man, he became like my big bro, man. You know what I'm saying? That was like 3 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
And that's another thing. That's another thing that I'm saying is because, like, when we talked about 10,000 hours, we talk about believing in yourself, and we talking about really inspiring the youth, right? They have to know things like that. Like, you know, you got informed about this guy, read about this guy, interested about this guy, said we could build something around him. Let me go to DC and meet him there. See, a lot of people don't understand that. Like, that's not, you know, that takes ambition. You know, that takes a lot of get up and go. You can't be like, you know, being in these type of fields is not a job. Like, you don't have to punch in. You know, you don't have to, but you can not win also. You know, so having that mentality to go meeting. And so you have been in the Bay, you have friends in the Bay, a lot of good close friends. And when you met Lil D and you talked to him, like, did you instantly get an inspiration like this story should be told and the Oakland story should be told?
I absolutely knew from the beginning, from me doing from reading up, I already had it painted in my mind. And it was just about really meeting D and just getting to know him. I'm a big person about vibes, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And this is when D first came home, and the vibe was just there, man. We sat down, we ate breakfast, we talked about, you know, telling his story from a different perspective, you know what I'm saying? Because I tell people every day that everybody has a story, right? But you have to have something that cuts through the fog. What is it about your story that no one knows about? You feel what I'm saying? I call it fog cutters. Like, they have boats, tugboats, that tug big boats out of tight spaces or put them in spaces. Right. You got boats that actually shine the light for bigger boats to go through the fog. You know what I'm saying? Those stories mean something to me. So when I sat down with D and, you know, he told me, you know, from the beginning of what led him to where he's at and his redemption, I was like, yo, this story needs to be told. You know, his story really needs to be told.
And all of these things are in the works, and the progress is being made on that. And that's a perfect transition into talking about Godfather of Harlem, because it seems to me that you've adopted a style in the way that you want to tell stories, because in Godfather of Harlem, we know who Bumpy Johnson is, right? So we it's not like we haven't heard about who he is or what he's done, or the, you know, the infamous Bumpy Johnson from Hoodlum, you know what I'm saying? And but you take a different approach. You're showing Harlem, right? You're showing Harlem in the 60s. You're showing Malcolm X. You know, you're showing the political leaders. you're showing so many different dynamics, the Italian mob, and what me and you talked about, like Oakland would be so much similar in having all of those different dynamics, being it the Hells Angels or the Black Panthers or the Pimps, drug dealers, or what have you, right? So how did you figure out that to be your style and that you were gonna start off with Godfather, or did you even start off with that approach for Godfather Harlem?
Well, one thing about me, I'm very humble, so I can't just say me, me, me. If it wasn't for a team that believed in me, I got to give a shout out to Chris Brancato, who created the TV series Narcos, and he did the original movie Hoodlum. I got to give a shout out to Paul Eckstein, who's also my co-executive producer. We all came together, because the story about Bumpy Johnson you've seen in Hoodlum, you've seen in the Cotton Club, you've
American
seen it in American Gangster, but we wanted to tell a story about Bumpy that wasn't told before. So Chris came up with the idea. It was like, we told the Harlem Renaissance Bumpy. Let's tell about the worst time for African Americans at that time, which was the 60s. Let's tell about the collision of civil rights and the underworld. And my storytelling is, I like to tell real stories with real narratives. I call it edutainment. Not entertainment, but edutainment.
Like the BDP album.
Yeah. Chicken noodle soup for the soul. Stuff that's real that you can relate to, I want to tell real stories about real people. So with the brilliance of Chris and Paul and Jim and Nina has told so many stories in the Bay. She did the Sorry to Bother You. She did Fruitville Station. She is very familiar with the Bay Area, and she loved the Bay and Forest. These guys we were all teammates. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't Michael Jordan without Scottie Pippen or without Paxson. You feel what I'm saying? So we all came together with a creative process. So the stories that I like to tell are real narratives, are real things that people can relate to.
How long was the project in process in your hands before it got brought to any of those people? Were any of those people there?
18 years. The process was all on me. I carried it on my back for 18 years. I made a promise to a lady that's not here right now. That's like my godmother. Her name is Margaret Johnson. And every Sunday I used to go up to Lenox Terrace, and Margaret would tell me these magical stories of Harlem. She would tell me about walking out and smelling fresh laundry hanging out a tenement window, or hearing Sam Cooke's voice coming out of a transistor radio, or walking past the Apollo and seeing James Brown's name on a marquee, or seeing Nat King Cole getting a haircut in Sugar Ray Robinson's barbershop. It was these magical, magical tales she used to paint to me. But she also used to tell me about racism that was happening up north. It wasn't just happening in the South. It was happening up north. People were migrating from Charleston and South Carolina and North Carolina and coming up to New York, Harlem, and still experiencing the same racism. Going into a shop, a black person couldn't even buy a hat without having the salesperson telling them to put on a shower cap because they didn't want the hat to touch their scalp. Or going to a get a steak dinner on 125th Street while all the patrons was eating inside. We had to stand at the door to get takeout. But she also used to tell me about her grandfather, whose name was Ellsworth Raymond Johnson, and everybody knew him as Bumpy Johnson. He was the first African-American gangster that sat down with the mob, with the Meyer Lanskys, with the Bugsy Siegels, with the Lucky Lucianos, with the Frank Costellos, with the Vito Genovese, the Guineas from back then. Your favorite Italian mobsters, those were his guys. They came up in the sandbox together. They just didn't look at Bumpy like he was a nigga. They looked at him like he was a Negro. Right. In Alcatraz, his IQ was way above normal. Bumpy played chess. It's urban legends that he beat Bobby Fischer in chess. He wrote poetry. He did his time in Alcatraz. He didn't snitch. And all of these things mesmerized me, and I made her a promise that I would go out there and tell the real story of who her grandfather really was. He didn't die in front of a bunch of televisions like an American Gangster. He died in my character's arm. I play a character by the name of Junie Bird, eating chicken and waffles. Bumpy was a straight up guy, man. he went against Dutch Schultz, you know. So I wanted the real legend of her grandfather told, and I made her a promise. She died in 2016, but I carried this with me for 18 years.
To jump on to transition into Junie Bird, right? I feel like that's your biggest role to date as far as acting, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You embodied it. I feel like every actor on that set is fucking killing it. Like, I mean, killing it. It wasn't, I mean, even though you guys had success and greenlit for season 2, am I correct?
Yeah.
It's not being seen in enough praise to me. I mean, it's the best shit ever. You have to understand the obstacles to even get this type of project done, from the set to making it, you know, to make it look like that, from the dressing to the language to just everything, the mannerisms. And it's an uphill battle because you have to paint these pictures in the eyes of today's time, right? To make it not boring. So explain to us how you became Junie Bird, and how did you how did you just embody that character?
I did a lot of interviews with a lot of old heads, and they weren't even really around, because even if you were 85, 90 years old, you were still a baby, because Bumpy was born in 1905, October 31st, 1905. So I took a lot of these stories and characters and built the character around who Junie Bird would have probably been in 1963 Harlem, because I'm a method actor. So what I did was I took a sheet of paper and I just drew Junie Bird. I just drew the things that he might like, what he might dislike, his loyalties, his vices, and just embodied it and brought that to life.
Speaking of method actors, so is Nigel Thatch, right?
Yeah, that's my guy, man.
Who plays Malcolm X.
Yeah.
He killing it. I always thought he looked like Malcolm X from when he was on Parenthood back in the day. Like,
yeah, and then he played Malcolm X on Selma as well.
Oh, okay, yeah. And then his energy and the dynamic and the relationship of him and Antoinette Crow on the show, who plays
Elise.
daughter. Elise.
Yeah.
Right. And getting her into the mosque and getting her off of drugs and all of that. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. I know the show is greatly written. I know that the production is great. I know that all of that is great. But you can't make up the shit that's going on camera. The magic that we seeing, like, it just happened. I don't think anybody knew. I don't, and maybe it's my eyes. Maybe I'm just the critic that's thinking that. But I think the shit is like, when I'm watching it, I'm there. I'm in that relationship.
We were blessed to have John Ridley direct the pilot, and then have DPs like Guillermo Navarro, who got an Oscar for Pan's Labyrinth. And, you know, when you got people like Vincent D'Onofrio from Full Metal Jacket, and Giancarlo Esposito, man, who's a beast. And then you have Forrest and Paul Savino and Chaz Palminteri, Catherine Narducci, you know, Nigel Thatch, and the list goes on. Even Cecil, the shoe shine.
Man, Cecil killing it.
But you know who that is, right? He played that's Sonny Carson.
Oh, I can't even see it.
If you watch the movie The Education of Sonny Carson,
that's
Sonny Carson.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Then you have Demi Singleton killing it, playing Margaret Johnson. I mean, then we have Sonia Son. She came on later on during the series. She's playing Nell. We got Ilfanesh Shadera playing Mamie. You know, the list goes on. We got a wonderful team. And then, you know, Swiss Beats kills it with the music, man. I'm blessed to say that Swiss came in and used his magic. And we got Raphael Sadiq, who did some of the music in the beginning of the series. You know what I'm saying? So we were blessed to have a great team.
Shout out to Raphael and Swizz, man. Yeah, because from the day I heard Swizz on. I mean, the theme music. You know, on a theme song, right? So Swizz, he killed that because in order for it to be a theme song, I got to get in my car and the shit play in my mind when I ain't nothing. You know what I mean? Or you got to go to the grocery store pushing the cart and going up my window. That ain't happening. It ain't it. You know what I'm saying?
I remember when we first did the song and Ross was in the studio and Swizz was like, yo, come here, let me play this for you. And Ross is right there and he played it. I was like, oh, I said, this is it. This is it right here. Yeah. And then DMX threw his verse on. I was like, yo, this is it, man. This is it.
That's it, man. And there's an official soundtrack.
Yeah, you can go on Apple and just type in Godfather Harlem and you can hear the soundtrack.
I've been listening to the songs, but I just want the people and the fans to know that they can actually stream the music from the show.
Definitely.
I think that's something that a lot of you, our Black creators, been putting in later, whether it's Issa Rae or Lena Waithe or whoever. They've been highlighting the music. You having a musical background, of course, with your brother. All the people who know in the music game. I knew you knew that was important, and I believe that it attributes to the show's success.
And when we do the same thing, when I do Daryl's story, when I do Little D's story, I want the tone and the sound of Oakland back then. I want that funk. I want people to know that they're in Oakland. You feel what I'm saying? I want them to feel it. I want them to smell it, and that's very important to me.